Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us for another great webinar brought to you by the Maryland PTAC. We're delighted to have you with us today. My name is Yasmin Razak. I am the marketing and training coordinator at the Maryland PTAC. And I am here with one of our counselors. His name is Archie Cardwell. He will be delivering the presentation today. How are you doing today, Archie?
Not bad, Yasmin. Good morning, and good morning to everyone.
Great. The topic you're going to be covering today is how to avoid having your service disabled veteran-owned small business status denied, which sounds like a bit of a mouthful, but obviously it is very important for people who are trying to get approved. So this is an important webinar and lots of great information. I hope you can see the screen and that you can hear us okay. If there are any problems, you will see a chat box on your screen. You can just post a question in there, or the Q&A box, which I believe is a symbol with the question mark. If you click on that, you can type out your questions about the presentation or any other issues. We're going to get started very shortly. There will be opportunities, as I said, to ask Archie questions throughout the webinar, so don't feel like you have to wait to the end. And we will be providing a copy of the presentation via email after the webinar has concluded. A little bit about the Maryland PTAC. It's our mission to help position Maryland-based businesses to fully compete in federal, state, and local government procurement processes. So if you would like to speak with a counselor, it's free and it's confidential, and it's easy to sign up. All you have to do is go to our website, which is mdptac.org, and register. And a counselor will be assigned to work with you. At the moment, it's usually taking about 5 business days. They'll contact you to schedule a session. You can have counseling sessions over the phone, via webinar, or if you prefer to do it face-to-face, we can do that too. Now, if you have been counseled by us in the past and you'd like to reconnect, just log into your account and request another meeting with your counselor. Okay, let's get started. Archie, over to you.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for taking time out of your very busy schedules to attend this webinar. I have some very good information I'd like to put out to everyone. So I hope you have pens and paper and notepads to take notes, because some of what I'm going to say may not be incorporated into the slides. So once again, thank you and welcome. In regards to the Maryland PTAC, the mission statement is to increase contracting activity between small businesses, prime government contractors, and the local, state, and federal governments. Now, types of individual counseling that the counselors will provide would be government marketing strategies, information about government regulations, i.e., e-Maryland Marketplace, the Small Business Reserve, SAM, or the System for Award Management, Woman-Owned Small Business, Economically Disadvantaged Woman-Owned Small Business Self-Certification, Service Disabled Veteran-Owned Small Business / Veteran-Owned Small Business Verification with the VA. And I apologize for my voice. I suffer from allergies, and I woke up this morning with a sore throat. So we're gonna make it through this. Additionally, we have federal and state procurement assistance and counseling, GSA schedule assistance, bid and proposal assistance, pre- and post-award audits, business assessment and marketing strategies, specialized workshops, and training classes. Other services include government marketing strategies, business assessment, contract compliance assistance, and SBIR/STTR proposal assistance. We are funded by a grant through the Defense Logistics Agency, which is a part of the DoD, or the Department of Defense. The grant is administered by the University of Maryland through the counselors that Yasmin was telling you about, of which I am one. My area of responsibility is Western Maryland to include Washington, Garrett, and Allegheny counties. This is our executive summary. In analyzing whether or not to allow businesses to be included in vet biz vendor information pages, the verification program, as a service-disabled veteran-owned small business, or as we like to use the acronym SDVOSB, the Center for Veteran Enterprise, or CVE, Center for Veteran Enterprise, at the Department of Veterans Affairs applies the provisions of 38 CFR Code of Federal Regulations, Part 74, and essentially looks at two key issues. Now, before we get into the issues, I'd like to tell you that to qualify as a service-disabled veteran-owned small business, number one, you have to be a small business, obviously. Number two, you have to be at least 51% owned and controlled by one or more service-disabled veterans. Number three, you must have one or more service-disabled veterans who manage the day-to-day operations and make the long-term decisions concerning the business. And of course, number four, obviously, you must have a service-connected disability. So I covered number one, management and daily operations of the business controlled by one or more service-disabled veterans. 51% ownership interest in the business owned unconditionally by one or more service-disabled veterans. So the following is a list of tips you can follow to avoid having your service-disabled veteran-owned small business status denied based on your business's documentation and records. Documentation and records is very key to getting your application certified the first time. So this is not an exhaustive list of requirements, but these are some of the apparently common mistakes that are made on the applications. Number one, the obvious tip here is to get rated. This may seem obvious, but make sure your service-disabled veteran owners actually have received their disability ratings from the VA. You must have your disability ratings from the VA. In the past, certain businesses or small companies were able to self-certify as service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses, and some business owners were given poor advice when they started their businesses many years ago that they didn't need to have a rating, as the program was self-certifying. There is no grandfathering for the service-disabled veteran-owned small business program. Service-disabled veterans need to have their disability ratings in order to qualify, even, I repeat, even if they have been self-certifying their business, that is, as a service-disabled veteran-owned small business for years. I'm going to repeat that. There is no grandfathering. Service-disabled veterans need to have their disability ratings in order to qualify, even if they have been self-certifying their business as a service-disabled veteran-owned small business for years. Number two, watch your payroll. Make sure a service-disabled veteran is the highest paid employee. This issue usually occurs when two business partners want to be treated as equal. More than one company has slipped up when, due to differences in benefits or other income items, the non-service disabled veteran ended up with a higher W-2 wage amount than the service-disabled veteran, even when the partners thought that the service-disabled veteran had a slightly higher salary. So make sure you have enough cushion in your pay packages so that you don't blow this test. The service-disabled veteran must be the highest paid employee. Tip number 3, 51% means exactly what it says, 51%. Make sure your organizational documents, such as articles, bylaws, operating agreement, stockholders agreement, etc., do not include any super majority provisions. Now, supermajority, the definition, a supermajority is an amendment to a company's corporate charter that requires a large majority of shareholders, somewhere between 67 and 90%, to improve important changes like mergers, for example. So you cannot have any supermajority provisions written into your organizational documents. Organizational documents typically include supermajority provisions, and you need to make sure any form agreement that you pull off the internet, borrow from somebody, or get from an attorney not familiar with the Service Disabled Veteran-Owned Small Business Program has those provisions scrubbed out. Look for red flag terms such as unanimous, all when referring to owners, or percent or the percent sign when referring to ownership interest when the number is more than 51, and make sure to remove them. There are a number of documents that you will be required to submit with your application. The first document and the most important is the VA Form 0877. That's the VA Form 0877, to include supplemental documentation as required by the CVE, the Center for Veteran Enterprise. All of these electronic forms are available on the VIP or the vendor information pages of the VetBiz link. I'd like to go over and mention some of this documentation that you are required and will be required to maintain at your principal place of business. A complete list of all the supplemental documents that were provided to the CVE for use in your verification examination. So you got to make not only do you have to put all this information together and gather it, you've got to have copies of it on file at your principal place of business. Now, these are some of the documents that you may be required to produce, and it includes, but is not limited to, articles of incorporation / organization, corporate bylaws or operating agreements, shareholder agreements, voting records and voting agreements, trust agreements, franchise agreements, organizational, annual, and board / member meeting records, stock ledgers and certificates, state-issued certificates of good standing, contract lease and loan agreements, payroll records, bank account signature cards, financial statements, federal, personal, and business tax returns for up to 3 years. And last but not least, licenses. Do we have any questions yet? No?
Yes, we do.
Oh, okay, go ahead, please.
Yes, the question is, if I am a government employee, can I still apply for the SDVOSB certificate if I meet all the VA criteria?
Yes.
Okay, so
The answer is yes.
Yeah, that was the only question.
Okay, all right, let's move right along here. Tip number 4, count your options. The CVE, or the Center for Veteran Enterprise, considers any unexercised stock options or similar agreements to include convertible notes and warrants held by non-service disabled veterans to be treated as exercised and will count them against the 51% ownership requirement. And to make things worse, they don't count the same instruments issued to service disabled veterans. So it appears to me that the government is really trying to make sure that the ownership of this company rests with the service disabled veteran-owned small business owner to include any of these stock options or convertible notes and warrants. If your service-disabled veterans own only 51% of the business and wish to put a stock option plan in place or otherwise grant equity or instruments convertible into equity to non-service disabled veterans, they will need to redeem down the non-service disabled veterans in order to make sure they don't blow the 51% ownership test. Tip number 5, avoid negative control. Make sure no non-service disabled veteran has any consent rights. These are sometimes called negative covenants over the management or daily operations of the business. In addition to supermajority provisions, oftentimes companies give minority owners or even outside investors, including debt holders, consent rights over certain actions, such as issuing new stock, making distributions, assuming debt, amending agreements, etc. These are typical protections that minority owners and investors ask for, but the CVE has found that these sorts of provisions result in the business being subject to the control of a non-service disabled veteran. This is what is referred to as negative control, and thus should be deleted. Yasmin, any other questions yet?
Yes, there's a follow-up to that first question.
Okay, go ahead.
Will there not be any federal law that hinders me to perform and hold my personal business under the SDVOSB? Is this correct?
I am not a lawyer.
I didn't know that, Archie.
Yeah, any legal question, ask a lawyer. I'm not going to go out on a limb and make a comment on anything dealing with something legal. Go ask a lawyer that question. A contracts lawyer, as a matter of fact. Is there another question?
No, that's it.
Okay. Number 6, manage your business. If your business is formed as a limited liability company and is defined as being manager managed rather than member managed, make sure you have appointed, keyword, make sure you have appointed a service-disabled veteran as the manager. Or if you have a board of managers, make sure service-disabled veterans control the board. Sometimes owners who form businesses as limited liability companies don't realize that the business is designated as manager managed and instead assume that the members are the ones who control the management and operations of the business, which is not the case. If you don't appoint the proper managers, the CVE will find that your business is not controlled by service-disabled veterans. Once again, control must be in the hands of the service-disabled veteran. And y'all, anytime you have a question, just interrupt me, please.
Don't worry, I will.
Okay, thank you. Tip number 7, don't condition ownership. Make sure the ownership interests of your service-disabled veterans are not subject to any sort of restrictions on withdrawal from the business or sale or other transfer of interest, including rights of first refusal, rights of first offer, etc. The CVE has found that any provision that restricts a service-disabled veteran from disposing of his ownership interests in any way, even if the right is granted to another service-disabled veteran, is an impermissible condition on ownership. These are pretty typical provisions in organizational documents for businesses, and you need to make sure that they are either deleted completely from your documents or indicate that they do not apply to the service-disabled veterans. Note that these provisions are allowed if they are triggered only upon the death or incapacity of the service-disabled veteran. In addition, pledges of stock for commercial financing arrangements are also allowed. So as you can see, this is very detailed and comprehensive, and I would recommend and suggest that you get some sort of legal help in putting these packages and documents together. Number 8, be free to amend. Make sure all of your organizational documents include an amendment provision stating that the document, including any provisions restricting the ownership or control of the service-disabled veterans, may be amended by the service-disabled veterans. May be amended by the service-disabled veterans. Control still has to vest in the service-disabled veteran. In this way, even if your organizational document has a provision that the CVE finds objectionable, you can point to the fact that the service-disabled veterans can amend it at any time and thus does not actually impact ownership or control. So that's a very good amendment to have. Number 9, make sure to save. Make sure all of your organizational documents includes savings provisions. One that states that the document is intended to comply with the requirements of service-disabled veterans regulations, and another that states that in the event of a conflict between the document and the service-disabled veterans regulations, the service-disabled veteran regulations take precedence. I have not yet had to test this provision with the CVE, but if all else fails, it is one last arrow in your quiver and not bad provisions to include. Do we have any questions?
No questions yet. And I know obviously this presentation is a very niche one.
Yes.
So I don't know if anybody out there would like to post a question. Now is your chance to speak to Archie, because there's not many people that specialize in this area. And Archie is a veteran himself. Okay, there's another one coming in. So please go to your question box and post your questions. Somebody said, I applied for the SDVOSB, but my application has been denied, and their reason was that I'm still employed.
Okay, what's the question?
I guess that's the question. So, to the person who's posting that, could you post it as a question, please? What was your question regarding that? You want to know why you were denied because you're currently employed? Is that the question?
I'm assuming they're employed full time somewhere.
Yeah, I'm assuming that unless they correct us.
Okay.
I'm assuming so they're in full time employment. Does that mean they're not eligible?
I think that is a disqualifying criteria.
Okay. Yeah, so the question is it often the reason for being denied? It seems like that is a disqualifying criteria. So you cannot be employed by somebody else whilst you're applying to this. Is that correct?
Full time.
Full time. So you can be part time?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Anybody else have any other questions that they'd like to ask regarding this? Is there anything you feel that was not covered, or something related to this topic that you'd want to know? Now's your time to type in your question.
Well, there's a lot of detail included in this, as you said, niche area. And the benefits are huge. The payoff is huge. Once you get your certification, you'll get the little SDVOSB emblem with a wreath around it. But what it allows you to do is to compete for federal opportunities that have been set aside specifically for service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses. That's what this whole effort is about, to give you, the service-disabled veteran-owned small business owner, the opportunity to compete with small businesses, your approximate size and area of expertise with these opportunities. The government recognizes or tries to recognize the sacrifices that our veterans have made, especially those who have a service-disabled rating. And so the service-disabled set-aside program is one that would help you to get your first contract, for example. So it would be well worth the effort, I think, in my opinion, to put all your paperwork and get all your documentation together in order to get your certification, because these opportunities are very unique. They're opportunities that any small business can perform. I've seen them. They're normal opportunities. It's just that nobody else can bid on them except a service-disabled veteran-owned small business owner. I think it's a great program. Yeah.
Great. Another couple of questions. Do you recommend any agencies out there that can help with reapplying for the SDVOSB process?
And
is that something that we do, Archie?
No, but I could point some, if that individual would like to send me an email, or you can forward the question to me, I can send that individual some resources. There are people out there who do everything to include helping you along with this getting your paperwork together. So yes, there are resources available.
Could you go to the slide that has your email address so everybody can see it?
Oh, sure.
I think it's the next one.
Yeah, there it is.
No, we don't see it yet. I don't see it yet. It's the one where it has all the counselors' names and email addresses.
Yeah, I just.
Okay, now we see it. Oh, it's gone back.
Okay, now can you see it now? I'm sorry.
So on there, you'll see all our counselors. We have 5 counselors in the state of Maryland, and Archie is based out in Hagerstown. So you could sign up if you want more one-on-one detailed help. You can sign up to become a client and request to have Archie work with you. Otherwise, you could, if you just have a quick question, you could just send him an email today.
Please.
And we have another question.
Yes.
When you're in a partnership, does the disabled vet have to have 51% ownership?
Yes.
Okay.
Crucial.
Right. Our service, somebody was asking us how much we charge for information for counseling. We don't charge. It is free.
Let me also add to that last question.
Yeah.
The whole intent is to ensure that the veteran not only owns the business but controls the business and makes the management decisions on a day-to-day operations and long-term decisions. So yes, not only 51%, but actually operational control and management. Go ahead.
That's it. No more questions.
Okay, well then you see the contact information here, ladies and gentlemen. As Yaz indicated, please feel free, if you'd like to follow up with me, just send me an email. And let's connect, Maryland PTAC.
Yes, we encourage you to follow us on social media. We're on all of those, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. We post upcoming classes. We post government contracting information and opportunities. And, you can also chat with us online as well. We try to be active on social media. Otherwise, the main thing, really, after this webinar is you should head over to our website if you haven't done so already and sign up to be a client. We also have lots of resources regarding government contracting on the website. You just click on the resources page, and we also have some free webinars that you can watch on there. There's other videos that Archie has recorded, so that's good for you to watch and take notes. And lots of other interesting information about who we are, what we do, how we help clients, success stories, and all of that.
I would encourage you, if you own a business or you're thinking about starting a business, get some help from people who have been there and done that. My background and experience, I maintain a profile on the LinkedIn page. If you'd like to take a look at my education, background, and experience, please feel free to do so. There is absolutely no reason why you cannot be successful in your business endeavors. The only person that can control your success or failure is the person looking at you in the mirror.
That's a nice way to wrap this up, Archie. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
For sharing all of that with us. And thank you, everybody. I hope you got some good value out of this. And we hope to, see you again, either at a class or, in a counseling session. So thanks, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day.